Hello and welcome to the Money Marketing Podcast, and welcome to this special series of Weekend Essay podcasts. Join us as we delve into the personal narratives of our editorial team, exploring the intersection of life experiences and financial advice. From triumphs to setbacks, each episode offers a candid glimpse into the journeys that shape our perspectives on money management. Get ready to uncover the human side of finance as we share our stories, insights, and lessons learned along the way. Welcome to the Weekend Essays on the Money Marketing Podcast.
Reflections on the death of a parent. It was deeply moving for me to be part of the 75,000 Wembley crowd singing along to Green Day's Wake Me Up When September Ends last month. This year marks the 20th anniversary of the US band's American Idiot album, on which this song appears, and 20 years since my dad's death. Wake Me Up has a special place in my heart because it is about the loss of a father. Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong was only 10 when his dad died of cancer, and even now the singer finds it difficult to perform this song live. At Wembley, a sea of swaying mobile phone torches in the stands and the line about the passing of 20 years caused a lump in my throat as I thought of my dad. I'm so grateful to have not been a child when my dad passed, but because I was in my 20s, still living with my parents and not expecting it, I felt the impact of that loss keenly. My everyday life changed beyond recognition, as did my outlook. For the first time ever, I experienced one of those curveballs you can get when you're just minding your own business and focused on living. It was a massive shock to the system. In hindsight, losing my dad forced me to grow up, look out for my mum at a time when she was vulnerable, and start taking responsibility for my future. That was a positive consequence of my loss, liberating even. I've often wondered if leaving home would have been more of a wrench if my dad had still been around when I met my husband. The possibilities and potential that comes with the end of one phase of life and the beginning of another is something you just can't grasp when you're newly bereaved or still working your way through loss. But when the time is right, it can be that cliched light at the end of the tunnel that brings you back from living in the past to the present. My mum was at the age I am now when she met my stepdad. It's far too young to spend the rest of your life alone if it's not of your choosing. I understood that at the time, but it still took me a while to be properly okay with my mum dating again, even though by then I'd met Dan, my husband. Losing a parent is odd like that. Even if you're an adult, you can still feel like a child. I adore my stepdad. He's an only child like me, and our connection at the start was probably based on that. He's always had the utmost respect for my dad, and as time has gone on, he's become my first port of call for emotional support. Meeting my stepdad broadened my mum's horizons, as unlike my dad, who hated flying, my stepdad is a huge fan of holidays abroad. He has shown my mum that there is a big wide world out there, so she has now been to places such as Cuba and Egypt. I also started travelling the world a bit more around this time, and building memories like this as you're rebuilding your life obviously requires money, a bit of thought and planning. I think financial advisors have a huge role to play in helping clients and their families as they move towards this point, from providing emotional support early on to helping with financial plans that show clients they still have a future to look forward to. Some clients will have had difficult relationships with their deceased parent and the remaining family. I know people whose parents couldn't come to terms with their sexuality, and those situations throw up a lot of mixed emotions when they die, from guilt and regret to a sense of finally being free to be yourself. But those emotions can often be a vicious cycle. One friend couldn't help but feel a sense of relief and freedom when her elderly mum passed away in a care home, but it was difficult for her to think it, let alone say it, without feeling like the worst daughter in the world. My friend had spent several years caring for her mother before that point and was racked with guilt when her mum's health deteriorated to the point that she could no longer cope. She had done everything she could, and some, but guilt seems to go with the territory when you lose a parent, at whatever age and whatever the circumstances. I've also heard a family friend talk about navigating strange relationships with stepfamily over inheritance when they lost a much-loved stepmother. The bonds between a step-parent and child can sometimes be stronger than those between blood relatives, but it can breed resentment when money and possessions are distributed in a deceased person's will. I've seen how upsetting it is for this person who was incredibly close to their stepmother and financed her care costs until she passed, for blood relatives who were notably absent during the deceased woman's final years to contest the will. Some of this may be more for the lawyers and counsellors and financial advisors, but while I'm not a fan of professionals in any field straying too far into the territory of others, I think it makes sense for advisors to enhance their soft skills in areas such as bereavement, counselling, and psychology. I know some advisors who have qualifications in these kinds of disciplines, and I'm convinced this can help provide a better service by giving advisors a deeper context. A teacher at my daughter's school recently reminded me of the famous quote by American writer Maya Angelou. Angelou talked about how people will forget what you said and what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. In my experience, that certainly rings true when you lose a parent.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of our weekend essay series. We do hope that you enjoyed it. Please do keep up to date with all our new releases via Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts from. You can also keep up to date with all our new content published on the Money Marketing website, as well as our print edition Money Marketing magazine, so make sure to subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. See you next time.